So, how do you actually change something as enormous and complicated as an entire country's food system? It's not about one single move. It's about building a machine, a really carefully designed machine with a ton of moving parts. And today, we're going to take that machine apart and see how it works.
We're going to dive into the strategy of an organization called Catalyst. They're engineering a massive shift in animal welfare and food sustainability over in Thailand. And what's so cool is their two-pronged approach. It is, frankly, a masterclass in how you make real, systemic change happen.
Okay, first up, let's talk about their top-down strategy. Instead of starting with protests or petitions, they went straight to the top, right to the major players, the big corporations. The whole goal? To shift the entire market by changing what big business demands from its suppliers.
And you know what? It is absolutely working. So far, they've locked in 18 major new corporate commitments and progress updates for cage-free eggs. Now, that's not just a number. That's a whole lot of really influential companies signing on to completely change their supply chains.
So what does a number like 18 commitments actually look like in the real world? Well, it means that every single year, almost 11 million eggs that would have come from hens in tiny cages will now be sourced from cage-free farms. That's a huge, tangible impact you can actually count.
And this just shows you the sheer scope of their success. I mean, we're not just talking about one little corner of the market. These commitments are coming from major retailers, food manufacturers, huge restaurant chains, and massive international hotel groups like Mandarin Oriental and Accor. They are literally changing the standard across the entire food service and hospitality industry.
So how in the world do they pull this off? Well, it's a lot more than just making a few phone calls. They've built this whole sophisticated operation. It involves direct corporate outreach, sure, but then they actively play matchmaker, connecting businesses with the right cage-free farms. They use a whole network of business consultants, and they even partner up with local chambers of commerce to get a foot in the door. It's a really smart, multi-layered push.
But look, getting a company to make a promise is really only half the battle. If you suddenly create a demand for millions of cage-free eggs, you've got to have a system that can actually supply them. So Catalyst isn't just asking for change, they're out there building the actual infrastructure for it.
This quote just perfectly captures their whole philosophy. You can't just tear something down and leave a void. You have to be there to actively construct a better alternative, one that's viable, reliable, and actually works. So how do you even start to do that?
Okay, this is where their strategy gets really, really clever. So the existing government certification, it's pretty basic. It's mandatory, pass-fail, and it mostly just looks at infrastructure. Catalyst went and created something totally different. A new certification that's voluntary, it's collaborative, and it's all about the actual welfare of the hens, based on real behavioral science. It's not about just passing a one-time test. It's about getting better all the time.
And this is how they measure it. This Good Life framework, it doesn't just check for the absence of bad stuff, like cruelty. It actually measures the presence of positive things, opportunities for the hens to have a good life. We're talking about things like perches for roosting or bales of straw they can pick at and explore. It takes this abstract idea of animal happiness and turns it into something you can literally see and score. It helps farmers know exactly where they can improve.
Right, so building a new system also means you have to train the people who are going to run it. So that's what they did. They trained inspectors for their new certification. They trained commercial egg producers on exactly how to meet these higher standards. And, this is so critical, they've trained over 300 government officials, which helps them get buy-in and spreads this knowledge from inside the existing system.
Now, get ready for the second, equally brilliant part of this whole strategy. While they're busy remaking the system from the top down, they are simultaneously building a movement from the bottom up. And they're doing it by focusing on the next generation.
This is their Good Food for All program. Basically, they partner with schools to roll out a plant-based, meatless Friday for school lunches. And just look at this map. They have scaled this thing across the entire country, reaching communities all the way from the north to the south.
And the program is just exploding. I mean, in just their last reporting period, they expanded to 59 brand new schools. That brought in another 16,000 students. This is not some small pilot project. This is a national movement, and it's scaling up fast, all in partnership with Thailand's own Ministry of Education.
Of course, anytime you suggest a meatless meal, especially for kids, this is the first question that pops up, right? And that concern led to what they started calling the egg dilemma, a challenge that, pretty unexpectedly, ended up connecting both halves of their grand strategy. And here is the fascinating link.
With parents worried about protein, schools started adding eggs to the meatless Friday meals. Well, why? Because a mind-boggling 84% of people in Thailand just aren't aware of the cruelty involved in battery cage systems. So this created a new demand for eggs right inside their own plant-based program, which perfectly highlights why their corporate cage-free work is so incredibly important. The two strategies, it turns out, are completely intertwined.
You know, overcoming challenges like that taught them some really vital lessons. They figured out that getting the kids involved was key. Training teachers was essential, and using positive communication, so instead of criticizing meat eating, they celebrated how delicious and diverse plant-based Thai food is. That worked way better. They even built in incentives, like generating revenue from carbon credits for reducing emissions. They're constantly learning and adapting their approach.
So what happens when you combine this really powerful top-down market pressure with a widespread bottom-up cultural movement? Well, you get a ripple effect with some truly staggering, totally measurable results.
Okay, just from the school lunch program, just that one piece, they are now serving over 400,000 plant-based meals every single year.
And the direct result of all those meals? It's estimated that over 135,000 animal lives are saved every single year. The environmental side of this is just as mind-blowing. The program saves over 6 million bathtubs of water annually. The scale of this impact is just immense.
What all of this really proves is that their dual-pronged strategy, the market pressure from the top and the grassroots education from the bottom, it's not just a nice theory, it actually works. And now this proven model is getting ready to grow, even beyond Thailand's borders. They're already making plans to expand their training programs into key regions of Indonesia, which is another country with just massive potential for impact. And their long-term vision, it's incredibly bold. They want to see half the population embracing plant-based diets by 2040. They've got the plan, they've got the model, and they've got a clear path forward. Which, brings us all the way back to that first question we asked. As we've seen from the incredible work of Catalyst, maybe the answer isn't choosing one approach or the other. Maybe true, lasting change really requires the vision to attack a problem from both ends at once, creating this kind of pincer movement that leaves the old, broken system with simply nowhere left to go.